everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums, and welcome to Sandy's 13 Frights Before Halloween 2022. I am part of a collab hosted by Sandy Trefker where we show you some fabulous Halloween projects to get you inspired for the 13 weeks before Halloween. So I went off a little sidetrack, and instead of doing mini album or cards, I made some spell books. This is a technique that I've been wanting to do for a while. I think I bought the eyeball last year sometime. And I decided to put them to use for Halloween and make some spell books. I also tried my hand at bookbinding, and I'll show you how I did the bookbinding. But let me tell you, I'm not an expert. It was my first foray into it. I looked at a tutorial from Nick the Booksmith and followed along with that. My version is probably nowhere near as good as her version, so please refer to her version on how to do bookbinding. But it was fun to do, and I will probably do more. So this book I used watercolor paper, and I'll show you the process of that. This one was just a inexpensive notepad that I picked up somewhere, and now I realize I didn't even cover the blue on here, but you know what, that's okay. And I was going to have the word spells written in and put in here, but I didn't have any letters in my stash, and I really didn't feel like getting out my Cricut. So you could put spells on any of these books. And obviously the technique is putting something below either tissue paper or bath tissue or a paper towel or whatever. I've seen various ways. And then you paint, and then you use a painter technique to highlight the raised areas. This is actually a plastic spider. And I had this paper in my stash. I've had it for many years. I only have one sheet left, and I just used that to add to this book. So this is pretty simple, and I don't do a tutorial on how I did this. But basically I took a hot glue gun and drew. Now first I covered this with crumpled up parchment paper, and then I did the hot glue on top of it. I glued down the spider. I painted it all black. I highlighted it with some gold, and then that's pretty much it. So that was fun. This one I did using one of those really inexpensive skeletons that you get at Halloween time. I had gotten one last year, and I kept it in my Halloween stash. I cut these wings out of some lightweight chipboard, added some hot glue on top of it. I had this scroll design. It was I think my first week in Halloween, or no, last week Halloween project. This was just a piece left over, and I put it down and added some hot glue on top. It's not real noticeable, but I like sort of the muted. And then I took some black and put it on, and then rubbed some of it off just so you would see some of the shape of the skeleton, but I didn't want it. Bam, there it is. This I just put on some chipboard, and I will be adding this to a book as soon as I find one of the size, or I might do bookbinding. And so you'll see that in my Etsy shop down the road. This was the whole reason I did this project, was to do this dragon eye. In retrospect, I should have had a larger dragon eye, and if I can find some glass beads, I might make my own, because I saw videos on that as well. I added some lightweight air dry clay to this below. It was an afterthought. After I had that part in, I thought I needed something here because there was a bunch here, and nothing here. It really should have been his jawbone, but again, because the eye was so small, I just felt like it needed something, so I just added something. You know, I figured you can make a dragon look however you want. It's a dragon. This technique was similar to how I did the other ones, but I will show you in the tutorial exactly how I did it. I'll show you what's in the book. So I've got a magnet closure here. I used some of that cool, whoops, trying to keep it looking spooky. Some of that cool paper on the back. I love that. So there's that. And then you'll open it up. I have this. This was some graphic 45 paper. I'll put a link. I put this in sort of as a book plate. And then this is my coffee dyed paper. And you can see that's how I stitched in, and you'll see a stitch on every other page. This is the first time I made coffee dyed paper as well. And it looked like to me it wasn't coming out very dark. So I got some tea bags that were in my stash and cut them open and threw it in. And the tea bags were some herbal tea, and they had something that caused purple spots on here. See, it's dark purple there. And I sort of thought it was cool. I liked it, so I left it. You'll see the purple in there. So yeah, there's lots of pages in here. You could make this a notebook. You could make this a journal. You could make it a photo album. You could add pictures in here if you wanted to. You could add pictures and journal about what the pictures are. It doesn't actually have to be Halloween because it's a dragon. So it can be anything. So, and then there's the back page with that back plate, and there we go with that. So I will show you how I made that. The tutorial is coming up, but in the meantime, I want to tell you that check out the other people in this collaboration. There are some fabulous, talented ladies. There are 11 of us. So they are listed in the description box. And I want to thank Sandy for hosting this collab and opening it up to people. It gave me an opportunity to do something fun like this. So I hope you enjoyed it. All right, stay tuned for the tutorial coming up next. All right, I don't show you me dyeing this paper. This is a heavyweight watercolor paper. It was a very inexpensive pad I picked up somewhere years ago. And I put it in a container, like a dish container, and added in some coffee and then added tea, just kept it in there probably for an hour. And then I pulled it out and put it out on my picnic table and let it dry. And here I am scoring each one in half. So fun and easy, and there we go. Now I'm burnishing on that fold. And then, as I said, I used a technique from Nick the Booksmith's. I had already made holes in the center of the paper, and I'm taking just some plain cotton string I had. I don't have anything fancy. I wanted to make sure I liked this technique before I spent a lot of money on the materials. And I probably will get some things as I go. So you go in one side and out the other, and then tie knots to keep it together. She said one of the hardest things about using heavyweight paper is people don't keep it tight enough, and I can understand that. I was a failure at tying the knots. I'm not afraid to tell you that. So it probably didn't stay as tight as it needed to, but you know what? It got the job done, and I liked how it came out. And then again, I didn't have the right glue, so I just used the Dries Clear Designer glue from the Art Glitter Institute instead of PBA glue, which you're supposed to use. Again, for my first try, I thought it was okay. And that's pretty much it for that technique. Now, I made the covers the same way I make covers for mini albums. I added a piece of double-sided adhesive to the back of the chipboard, put it on, scored the sides, cut the little corners off, and that's pretty much how I make the cover. and they make 2 of those obviously, and did something a little different for the spine. So now for the spine, you're supposed to use just some fabric. I don't have fabric. I I was thinking of maybe taking a t-shirt, but that's not the right fabric. You need a fabric that's not really stretchy. I did have this fabric that had adhesive on it, so I tried to use that. It was a complete and dismal failure. I ended up putting 2 pieces of the fabric together so it wasn't sticky anymore. But I knew I should have gotten that fabric I saw at Dollar Tree. I thought it was really cool, but I was like, what am I ever going to use that for? All right, here I'm making the spine, and I'm using that that handmade paper or whatever it is that I've had in my stash. And I just put the chipboard in the center of it. I glued it in. I made sure there was a gap of about 1/4 of an inch. And now here I am centering the pages of the book together. Again, you've got to refer to Nick the Booksmith's tutorial, not how I'm doing it, because I don't know what I'm doing. But again, it came out good in spite of my lack of knowledge here. And I like it. I'm going to make more books. I thought this was pretty cool. I'm using whatever I have available to me, a piece of chipboard to spread it on. I'm taking my bone folder and putting it down real well just so it holds. And putting those 2 pieces of the fabric together, that worked fine. That wasn't the problem. I didn't cut it right. I didn't cut this green piece right, but you'll see at the end I fix it. I make it work. I love how you have this inside and outside piece of paper. That gives you an opportunity to add some color. So that was pretty fun. So the problem was that I cut the paper a little too small, and you'll notice there's a little border of the watercolor paper. Okay, let's get into the fun stuff. First, I take some mint green low-tack tape to put over that paper or the spine piece so it doesn't get messy. And then I add some more of this. It's called wax paper, but it's not waxy. It was a Dollar Tree item, I think. And I put it inside the cover so I don't mess up the paper. I fold everything in. I just don't want to ruin all of my good work. All right, so I'm taking another piece of this waxless wax paper. I'm trying to tear it to make it the right size of the book. And I want to have the torn edge, so I just tear it. In retrospect, I could have left it bigger and then just at the end just taken an X-Acto and cut it down. I'm crumpling it up. Looks like I do it and then I crumple it up to throw it out, but I'm crumpling it up and it comes out much smaller, as you would expect. So I end up having to cover the top, but it's okay. It works. Now I take some Mod Podge. I have had this easily 10 years. Obviously, I don't use it that much. It took an act of Congress to open it. But anyhow, I put it on the book. I'm trying to get an even layer, and it's drying real quick. So I end up adding more and adding more and adding more. Just trying to cover it evenly. And then, of course, I'm going to put that piece of wax paper on top. Try to put it right on the edge of where that tape is because I just want that crisp, clean edge. I'm trying to add some more texture to it, so I'm bunching it up in some areas. The important thing with this is that you add a good amount of the Mod Podge. I probably could have added more than I did on the bottom layer. Then I, of course, add some to the top layer. And you could add several different layers. The thing is, you don't want to have like a big air bubble in one piece. So that's why I say you should add more of the Mod Podge that I added. But it's looking cool already, isn't it? So I figure out where I'm going to put the eye, and I have that little black piece because that's where I'm going to have the magnet to close it. I crumple up some pieces of the wax paper to make the eyelids. Another learning is I could have used that air dried clay here just to add lots more texture than I did. I will try to link that tutorial that I originally saw this on. You know, when you see something new and you want to do it, you watch 27,000 different tutorials. So if I can find the one that I watched that did this technique, I will put it in the description box. There are lots of different videos on YouTube on how to make this dragon book. Some people use different things, like there are molds you can use. Who knew? I'm not going to go get the molds because this might be a one and done. I might do it a couple of different times. I don't know. So much paper, so little time. That's all I can say. So anyhow, I'm trying to make the eye a little more definition and to have it look like it's coming out of the book. But I don't want it to be that abrupt, so that's why I'm adding these little pieces of paper. I don't have an exact dragon to sculpt this out of, obviously. So I'm just, flying by the seat of my pants. But that's how I do a lot of crafting things. I ripped up a bunch of pieces of this wax paper and make little balls because I'm going to add it in. But then I decided, you know what, let's get out the hot glue gun. And that is my secret for adding all this texture. I sort of looked at the paper that I have on the spine as my inspiration. And I'm adding some bigger glue dots, some smaller glue dots. I'm trying to have big ones in the corners, and I'll do some in the bottom left-hand corner and just smaller dots in the right corner. So that is how I got so much of this dragon warty, scaly texture on here. Uses a bunch of hot glue, but it stays. I think one of the tricks is you cannot paint on top of hot glue unless you have some kind of binding agent. I don't know if gesso would work. I guess you could try it, but I felt like after I put the hot glue dots on, I had to cover this up again. And the wax paper wasn't doing it. I'm just telling you, it just wasn't the thing. I thought I had some tissue paper in my stash, but I don't, and I'm not the kind of person to run out to go get one thing I need for a project, because I'd be gone hours I could be crafting. The other thing is, I am miles and miles away from a store, just where we happen to be right now, and it would be a whole day, and I wanted to do this today, darn it. So I just play around with different things I have available to me. So here I'm going to play around with that waxless wax paper, and I put it on, and it just creates, there's my head, it just creates too many air pockets. So here I'm trying to add a lot of the Mod Podge, and I'm using the brush to jam it down into the cracks. But because it's got whatever that coating is on it, not wax, it's creating all these air pockets, and I don't like that. I don't feel like if it dries, it's going to dry solid. You can see it's all squishing around. All right, I'm done with it. What am I using? Bath tissue. I don't know why they call it bath tissue, because you don't take a bath with it. Toilet paper. That actually worked better than the waxless wax paper. It went on easy. As long as you don't mess with it too much, it seemed to hold real well. It also had its own added texture. I don't know if you saw before, but it was 2-ply. So it's not very thick. One has more of a texture to it, but I didn't mind the texture. it sort of was scaly, and that, you know, that's not a bad thing when you're talking about a dragon. So I took the straight part of the bath tissue and put it against the straight part of my cover and just kept on going. So I did small pieces and then just kept adding until till it covered the whole thing. So I am not unhappy with this. I really liked how it all came about. Was it time consuming? Sorta. Was it tedious? I don't know if tedious was the word, but it took some time. But you know what? I enjoy the creative process, and I didn't mind that it took some time. I was having fun. I mean, who wouldn't be having fun making a dragon? So obviously now I am taking some black acrylic paint and painting over everything. I suggest you do this 2 times. Do it once, let it dry, and then do it a second time. I mean, you're going to be covering over some of this with other colors, but I find after you do it once, you'll see some of the areas that you missed once it's dry. So that way you just get a good base coverage. So it was about this time, oh, by the way, I painted around the eyeball. If I covered the eyeball, it's no big deal because it came off real clean. I just used just a little bit of paper towel to wipe it clean. But, oh, I used my brush. So at this time, I was thinking, you know what? It needs something where its cheek is. It's missing something. So I used this Delight air dry modeling compound to add just some little, I don't know, scales, just something. Again, it's a dragon. You can do whatever you want. In retrospect, I would have added more warts or whatever dragon scales, bigger ones towards the bottom, or I would have used a bigger eye and then everything would have worked. I made these little swirls. I don't know. I just thought they'd be cool. Probably should have had a mouth for the dragon here, but I didn't. I added these little things to his eyebrow. I don't know if they're eyelashes. They're whatever you want them to be. It's a dragon. So I let this dry, and then I went and painted that with black as well. Some of it wasn't that dry, so it was hard for me to cover. Don't make the mistake. Make sure you let it dry. Do as I say, not as I do. I need one more little curly Q here. Once I start painting it, then you'll see exactly what it is. So here I go. I'm using the colors I have. I have this green. It's sort of a flat green. And I've got some blue, and I mix as I go. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I sort of have an idea that I want a lot of color around the eye, and then around the top and bottom corners it'll be that green. I really wanted a brighter green, so I look in my stash and a little bit I add some brighter green to it, but I'll add other colors just to get it to come out. I don't mind that there is some black showing through. I think that adds to the texture of this. So so here's some of the other green. So I purposely let some of the black stay black. Again, to add to the texture. I mean, I spent all that time adding texture. So I make these little curly Q things red. I saw the red of the eye, so I decided just to sort of pull out that red and add this. I'm doing a second coat of the color, just adding in some more, intensifying that eye socket, adding some more light green. And now I have this, it's Jo Sonja's iridescent paint. There's a lot of different forms of iridescent that you can add to it. There are mica sprays or mica powders, and those would work just as well if you don't have an iridescent paint. But I loved, love, love, love the look the iridescent adds to it. It sort of gives it that mystical quality. And I just play around with it a little while until I get the look that I am going for. So a couple more layers of this color and then I'm done. And then here I go ahead and working on the clasp. I have a larger than normal magnet. I wanted it to be real strong because I just want it to be strong because you add things to the book. So I just add some of this dragon skin paper on top of a piece of cardstock. I put another magnet in, add a piece to the back. I figure out where I want it to be. I have some double-sided tape, put it on, and then I have a double-sided piece of the dragon skin and just add this to the back. Again, in retrospect, if I had known I was going to do that, I would have gone all the way from the back of it to like an inch on the front of the cover. I use my sharp razor to make sure that I cut it straight, and I didn't. I had to glue down a piece and add a little marker. See here on the right side how some of that paper is showing through. So I try some ink I have, and it doesn't really work, but I did get some distress paint, and that worked perfect. It was the exact right green. So I'm inking this up, and now you can't tell that I cut that paper too short. There is always a way to fix your mistakes when you're doing paper crafting. I mean, this one, the paper's even wonky. I don't know how I did that, but cover it up and nobody will know. And that is it. That is how I made this book. Pretty quick process video, but I hope you got something out of it and you might try it yourself. And again, I hope you enjoyed watching this. Don't forget to check out everybody else in the collaboration. And these will be for sale, at least these guys, in my Etsy shop. This once I get a notebook to put it on. So if it's something you're interested in, don't forget to check out these and all the other fun things in my Etsy shop. I have lots of Halloween. So thanks for watching. Good to have you.